I still remember the morning she left. She had a way of making coffee that filled the house before the sun even rose. Not just the smell, it was the sound too. The spoon against the ceramic, the quiet clink of the sugar jar, the hum of her voice half singing some forgotten tune. That was the first thing I noticed missing. Silence. It rushed in like a flood. I stared at the empty cup she used every day. The blue one, chipped at the rim. She always said it had character. I left it there. Couldn't bring myself to wash it. People said it was peaceful. That she passed without pain, in her sleep, just like she always hoped. But they weren't there in the morning. They didn't see her eyes half open, the stillness that didn't belong to her. I did. I saw it. And I still see it. It's strange, the things that stick. Her perfume on my coat. The dent in the pillow next to mine. Her slippers, one slightly more worn than the other, still by the door. I didn't move them. Still haven't. I spoke less after that. Not by choice. I just didn't have much to say. The world kept spinning. People went on. But I was stuck. Time didn't know what to do with me. I used to think love was something bright, something loud. But grief is quiet. It seeps in. It waits. And when it finds you alone, it sits with you like an old friend who's come to stay. She left little notes everywhere. Grocery lists. Reminders to water the plants. Even one on the mirror. Smile today, you're still here. I read it every morning now. I don't always smile, but I try. The neighbors started avoiding eye contact. Not out of cruelty, just discomfort. Grief makes people uneasy. They don't know where to put it, so they pretend not to see. One afternoon, I opened the closet and her coat fell into my arms. I held it like it was her, breathed in the scent that hadn't faded yet. It hit me like a wave. I sat down right there, on the floor, and let it take me. I don't cry in front of people. Not because I'm strong, but because I'm tired of the questions. How are you holding up? Is there anything you need? Yes, I need her. But no one can give me that. She was my compass. I didn't realize how much I relied on her until the silence became unbearable. She filled the space in a way I never noticed until it was gone. Now every room echoes. I started talking to her picture. Just small things. What do you think of this tie? Or, you wouldn't believe what the cat did today. It's stupid maybe, but it helps. Her smile in that photo makes it feel like she's listening. I tried going to the store. Just once. Made it halfway through the fruit aisle before I had to leave. Everything reminded me of her. She loved green apples. Said they were the only ones with attitude. Friends invited me out. I declined. I couldn't sit at a table where one chair would always feel empty. Nights were the worst. The bed too wide, the air too still. I left the window cracked like she used to. Said it helped her sleep. I hoped maybe her spirit still wandered in on the breeze. She left a letter. I found it in the drawer 2 weeks later. Addressed simply, for when you're ready. I wasn't, but I read it anyway. She wrote about love, about how it doesn't end just because the body does. That I'd carry her in every breath, every choice, every morning I got up and faced the day. She told me to live, not for her, but with her. It broke me, and it mended me, all at once. There was a day I finally opened the curtains, let the light in. It felt intrusive at first, like it didn't belong. But she always loved mornings. Said it was when the world whispered instead of shouting. I wanted to hear that whisper again. I started walking, just around the block, then to the park. I passed the bench where we used to sit. I didn't stop. Not that day, but I saw it. That was enough. A little girl was feeding birds at once. She looked up and smiled at me. I smiled back. It was small, but it was real. There are days I still feel like I'm underwater. Like the air is too thick, the sounds too distant. But there are also days I remember how she laughed. How she scrunched her nose when she was thinking. How her fingers danced when she was excited. Those days matter more. People assume grief fades. It doesn't. It reshapes. You learn to carry it differently. Not lighter, just better. Sometimes I dream about her. We're sitting at the kitchen table. She's drinking tea, and I'm just watching her. No words, just presence. I wake up aching, but grateful. I keep a candle on the table now. Light it every evening. Not for ritual, just remembrance. A small flame, steady and warm. Like her. I think that's what love becomes. Not the fireworks, not the grand gestures, but the quiet moments that linger. And I'm learning to be okay with that. It was a small wooden box, nothing fancy, just old, with a brass latch and my name carved on the bottom in handwriting. I didn't even know it existed until that day. I found it tucked behind her old sweaters, on the highest shelf in the closet. The scent of lavender still clung to the floor. My hands trembled as I lifted the box. I could almost feel her fingers on mine guiding me. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to me. The first one said, "Read these when you're ready." Not before. But I wasn't ready. I would never be ready. I read them anyway. Each letter was a chapter, not of her life, of mine. She had written about me from when I was small. The first time I scraped my knee. The time I failed my math test. The time I said I hated her. She never forgot. She forgave it all. She wrote, "You were always worth loving, even when you couldn't see it yourself." I cried so hard I couldn't breathe. My chest ached like it was being crushed from the inside. She had kept everything. Drawings I made, notes I scribbled, even a receipt from the day I bought her ice cream with my allowance. She remembered that day. "You gave me your whole world, a cone with 2 scoops," she wrote. And I gave her so little, in the end. The house was too quiet after she passed. The kind of quiet that pressed against your ears. No more humming from the kitchen. No more scolding over burnt toast. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was accusatory. I started talking out loud, just to hear something. "Mom, where's the sugar? Mom, did you see my keys? Mom, I'm sorry." No one answered. Her chair stayed empty, but I couldn't move it. Her tea mug sat on the counter for weeks. The lipstick stain faded, but I could still see it in my mind. Her scent was the last thing to leave. Lavender. Always lavender. I tried to sleep in her bed once. I thought it would bring comfort. It didn't. The sheets were too still. The air too cold. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, whispering apologies to the darkness. I should have called more. Visited more. Said less when I was angry. But regret doesn't change anything. It only lingers. It came in the mail, 3 weeks after the funeral. A letter, postmarked the day before she died. The handwriting was hers. On the envelope, she'd written, "Don't be afraid to live." Inside, there was a single page. And a key. The letter said, "I know you're scared. I know you think you failed me. But life isn't about getting it all right. It's about showing up. Even broken. Even late. Even unsure. There's a safety deposit box at Maple Bank. The key is yours. What's inside belongs to you, in every way that matters." I held the key in my hand for hours. I was afraid to go. Afraid of what I'd find. Or what I wouldn't. But I went. Inside the box was a photo of us. One I'd never seen. I was a baby in her arms, and she was looking at me like I was the only light left in the world. There was also a note. "You've always been enough, even on your worst day." And finally, a check. Enough to start over. Enough to live. She'd planned it all. Even her goodbye was an act of love. She knew I'd break. She also knew I'd rebuild. And that day, holding the key she left for me, I realized I wasn't lost. I was still hers. And she was still mine. The first time I used the check, I was shaking. It felt like betrayal, like I was spending her. But I needed groceries, and the refrigerator was a hollow shell. So I stood in line with a cart full of things she used to buy, bread, tomatoes, tea, and told myself it was just money, not her. At home, I opened the tea first, let the steam curl into my face. It smelled like her evenings, soft and forgiving. I drank a cup in silence, and then another. And when the mug was empty, I didn't cry. I just washed it, dried it, and put it away. I started walking in the mornings. Not far, just to the park. I didn't want to talk to anyone, but I wanted to hear the world again. Birds, dogs barking, leaves rustling. It was strange how life kept moving without asking if I was ready. One day, I saw a little girl feeding ducks. She reminded me of someone, of myself, of her, of both. The girl waved at me. I waved back, and something inside me cracked, but not in a painful way. It was like ice breaking under sunlight. The silence inside me started to shift. Not vanish, but shift. I went to the bank again. This time, not to cry. I wanted to thank the clerk who helped me the first time. He smiled and said, "You look lighter." I didn't know what to say, so I smiled back. I found a box in the attic. Not hers, mine. Old journals, photos, things I hadn't seen in years. I read words I'd written when I was 15. Angry, lost. She'd read these. She'd known all of it. And she still loved me. That truth wrapped around me like a blanket. I visited her grave for the first time since the funeral. I was afraid it would hurt too much. But it didn't. I brought flowers. Lavender, of course. I told her I was trying, that I missed her, that I heard her. There was no answer, just wind. But the wind felt like breath, like a whisper. On the way home, I stopped by a bakery, bought a lemon tart, her favorite. I sat on the bench outside and ate half. Then I smiled and said, "This is for you," and left the rest there. For the birds. For her. Because grief is not a cage. It's a room. And slowly, I was learning how to open the windows. How to breathe again. How to live. Even with the empty seat at the table. Especially with the empty seat at the table. I sat by the window this morning, watching the sun rise over a quiet street. The same street where she used to wave at me every morning. That garden is wild, overgrown with weeds. But her roses still bloom, as if they don't care who's still here to see them. I haven't spoken to my brother since the meeting. He didn't take the money. He took the trust and broke it. There are things I want to say to him. Some days I even rehearse them, but they always taste like ash in my mouth. I visited Mom's lawyer last week, just to ask if everything she did was really what she wanted. He nodded slowly. She was clear. It was her decision, not influenced. I believed him, because I wanted to. Because hating my brother doesn't bring her back. And holding on to pain only keeps her further away. At night, I light the candle she left me, the one with her scent. Lavender and something else I can't name. It makes the room feel smaller, warmer, like memory. I read her letters again. The ones she wrote to me, never mailed. Little notes tucked in recipe books, between pages of old novels. One said, "I hope you find peace before anger becomes your only language." I read it twice. Then I wept. I went back to the house last weekend. Not to fight. Not to claim. Just to stand in the hallway. To feel the echo of her footsteps. The wallpaper is peeling. The tiles are cracked. But her presence? Still there. In the corners. In the dust. I didn't knock on my brother's door. He was inside. I heard the floor creak. But I left a letter. No accusations. No blame. just truth. I told him I missed the time when we were just kids, chasing fireflies in the eye. Before inheritance. Before sides. Before silence. Now I cook her soup on Sundays. I sit alone at the table. But not lonely. Because she's there. In the recipe. In the warmth. In the quiet. I don't need revenge. I don't even need closure. I just needed to remember love. And I do. That's enough.